All right, well, welcome everyone. Good to have you with us here today. Everybody back there? All right, thank you to the administrators here at the college for planning this orientation with the district. Good to have folks here that are working both for the college and the school district. I think we have two school districts here, is that right? Right, well, I've enjoyed meeting many of you this morning. Let's see, how many of you are teachers here now? You're teaching in the schools, all right? How about teacher candidates, your pre-service teachers? All right, how many are teaching teachers, your teacher educators here at the college? And how many of you are in teaching teachers in the district? Your professional development? Got a couple of you folks? All right. All right. Well, thanks again for both of you for putting this together. Good to have all of you with us. Now, during this orientation, we're going to explore and discuss some of the main features of the test camp programs for teachers. Very similar programs we have for parents and we have them for students, but today we're going to talk about teachers. Now, this session is being recorded here today and will be made available as a video that you'll see in the information center. So feel free to share this with your colleagues back at the schools or district. They can watch this at a later time. We record these and then we put them out so everybody can see them. How do you get to this area? Well, I don't have a slideshow to show you for that, but I know you just go from the home area and just choose teachers. And then there's a button that'll say, or a pathway that says register now. That'll get you right here. Alright, so Test Cert, as it might sound, is the professional certification area. Alright, we'll be discussing this area in just a few minutes. Test Pro is the professional development area, and this is the most popular area here at the test camp, and we'll discuss why that's true in just a couple of moments. And then there's future educators, which we're going to take a little bit of time and talk about now, so we can get to the main two over there. Future educators is the professional advocacy area. So for those of you that are advocating becoming a professional teacher, this is for you. If you're working to recruit teacher candidates, especially in the middle grades and high schools, you'll especially have an interest in this area. This program includes a self-paced online course that introduces the pathways to teaching and all of the professional teacher competencies. Do we have anyone here today working to help teachers in careers, middle schools and high schools? A few of you? I'll stay after if you want to come and talk to me a little bit more about this. What's your involvement? Do you mind me telling? I'll have to repeat this for the folks listening in the recording. So basically you're working with future teacher clubs and academies. Okay, good, wonderful. Thank you for doing that. I'd like to learn more about that after the orientation here. All right, well, so as you can see here, this is the information center for the Future Educators program. It includes an orientation and a campsite tour. Campsites are what we call, those are sets of courses. So they get to go all around their campsite. Yes, go ahead. What's Educators Rising? Somebody want to explain what this organization is? Go ahead. All right, for you folks listening in, she's describing the National Education Association, the NEA. So this is one of the NEA school programs. To learn more, you can go to this area online anytime. Okay, so any other questions about future educators here at the test camp? How much does it cost? There's no cost. Nope, just simply register. Individual students can register anytime, and oftentimes we get group registration. That's kind of the way they go. They can do it as a class and get a grade book and watch their students go through it as a class. All right, so here again are the three programs for teachers. Let's take a closer look at the first two. All right, can you determine the major difference just by looking at them? There you go, right. Test Cert, that's for teachers preparing themselves for tests. Test Pro, for teachers preparing their students for tests. All right, let's start with that one. We'll start with Test Pro. As I mentioned earlier, this is the most popular program, and in just a moment you'll be discussing why with your neighbors here today. Here's the Test Pro Information Center. Got in this slide here. Now you can see here there's a brief orientation video. Tells them a little bit about that so they know they're in the right spot. And there's a pathway to meet their counselor, and that's just a colleague, another teacher, who can assist them with the program. All right, here's a question we've talked about in the orientations earlier this year. Does a teacher or a teacher candidate, in this case, someone learning to be a teacher, Do they need to learn and practice test skills? Would this competency be valuable for pre-service teacher candidates to be part of their program? Would it be valuable for in-service training program? What if all teachers were good test takers and felt confident and competent as test takers? Well, the three main benefits of this test skills competency have been identified by groups in previous orientations. We've talked about this quite a bit in those other groups. So introduce yourself to each other and share your thoughts and ideas about this, about teachers being good test takers, confident test takers. Let's see if you come up with the same list of benefits. We'll come back in just a few minutes and we'll see if you agree with this list of three. Okay, for you folks listening in here today, feel free to pause the video and discuss why you think teachers need to be skilled at testing or test confident. Or maybe you don't. We'll be back here after the discussion. Just come back and join us. Okay, so there were quite a few ideas discussed at each table. The question was, why do teachers need to learn and practice test skills, or do they? And here's the third most popular reason that was been given before today, and some of you did talk about this. Did you discuss this in your groups? What groups discussed this one? Yes, this is particularly important to teacher candidates, pre-service teachers. They're still taking tests, so they need to become test confident. Yeah, and they're taking the test to become certified as a professional teacher also, right? So we'll talk more about this in a few minutes when we talk about the test cert program. All right, here's the second most popular reason. See if you have this one. Yeah, right? Which groups discussed the increased emphasis on testing in the schools? The old groups, the older folks have seen this change over time. If you haven't been doing this for about 10 or 12 years, you probably think it's normal to take these tests all the time, but back in our day, no, we didn't do this. The tail didn't wag the dog. Testing was not nearly as high stakes as it is today. So what was part of your discussion back there about this? Teachers might improve their test writing skills. Okay, that's a good point. Other thoughts about school testing? Yes, go ahead. In some states, I'm repeating this for the folks that are listening in on the recording. In some states, teacher salaries are tied to students' test scores. That's what you're saying? Right. Okay. All right, and here's the most popular reason discussed by the other groups that have gone before you. Let's see if you've got this one. The reason teachers need to be good test takers is because they need to pass those skills on to their students. How many of you talked about this? Good. A lot of us did. What'd you talk about? Raising students' test skills raises their scores. Oh, okay. There you go. It's win-win, right? Win for the students, win for the teachers, especially those that you said that was tied to their salaries. And for the parents. Yeah, and you folks too, right? School districts. Okay, this is another reason. There is another reason, though, why teaching skills to students is considered the number one reason. So the question is, let's go to that number one there. Does a student need to learn and practice test skills? We talked about them getting rising scores. That's true, but I'll give you a hint. Discuss what you think student success is today in schools. How is that defined? We'll come back in a group. No, talk about it in your groups. We'll come back as a big group in a few minutes, and we'll compare your thoughts and ideas, especially about student success. All right, we'll be right back. Again, for you folks listening today, feel free to pause the video and discuss why you think students might need to be skilled at testing. Seems kind of obvious, but what do you think about student success? Come back here after restart the video, and we'll be here. Okay, we're back up here. Ready back there? All right, I'll repeat your idea for the folks listening in on the recording. Student success in schools, especially today, is more often than not determined by a test score. How did I do? Did I say that right? All right, it goes back to reason number 2, doesn't it? Increased emphasis on testing in schools. What's some of the testing out there? Diagnostic testing, placement testing, formative testing, summative testing, standardized testing, high-stakes testing. Testing. If you have an interest in this topic about testing, by the way, we have, and I put a slide up here for you, we do a workshop on that. It's free, called Testing in the USA. And you can even test your knowledge about this topic by trying the little exercise afterwards there. Yeah, again, no registration, no fee. Just from the home area, just choose workshops, then choose teachers. Let me say that again. Workshops, then teachers, and then you'll be able to find this. Okay, so back to Test Pro again, the professional development program for teachers and teacher candidates. Here's how this works. Test Pro teachers have admission to a set of courses. And here's an example of one. We call these campsites. This is an example of the English campsite. It's a set of courses. There's 4 courses in each campsite or each subject. So this is English, level 4. These courses can be thought of as levels since each one gets progressively more difficult as more content is added. So this is English level 4. Right? We'll see all the competencies are listed over there. There's 5 competencies. So here's how this works. At course level 1, we only add the first 2 competencies into all of the course and all of the tests and all the exercises. Okay? Level 2, we add another competency. Another one at level 3. And all the exercises and test items based on mechanics are added at level 4. So research is added there. All right, so any questions about the course levels? See how this works? Yeah, sure. The teacher you can skip around. Sure, you can skip to a more advanced level if you think you need to. It's up to you how you would train in this. You know, we recommend training at every level, even starting at the easiest level. And there's a couple of reasons for that, and I do have those in slides right here for you. First, the teachers have gone through you before. They say it takes up to 20 hours to go fully through and gain all the benefits of working through the activities and exercises. One reason you want to do this is because districts can award up to 20 professional development points for this program. Right, we can work with your district to make that happen. Second, the students can also get admission to these courses for free. So when you get a group of 10 or more teachers do this, all of the students get to do this for free. All of their students do, yeah. Well, and so by going through all of the stages through this, kind of like going through your book, your textbook, you better understand what the student experience is going to be. All right, go ahead. Another question? She asked about the word champion. You see the word champion up there in the heading? There's 2 types of passes for these courses. One's a 30-day pass and the 90-day pass, and that's just called champion. Well, a pass for 30-day admission is currently $30, is $1 a day, and the champion pass is 50 cents a day, so it's $45 for 90 days. And groups can register for discounted admission. That's what you guys are planning to do. That's why we're here today. Right, so we work with your school or your school district to make this a professional development opportunity. In some cases, the district pays for it for the teachers. You know, every district does it differently. When a group of 10 or more teachers register, the fee gets discounted, and the students receive the free admission we talked about before. You teachers then would get a grade book, and then that provides a way for you to track student progress. And group passes are also really good for groups of tutors. We have some tutoring groups out there that use these. Homeschool networks use these. So we can talk more about the orientation about tailoring a program for you. Let's go ahead and move on here. So anyway, that was a brief orientation to the Test Pro program designed to teach students. All right, let's move on to Test Cert. I know that's why some of y'all are here. This is designed to teach teachers and teacher candidates who are preparing for state certification tests. So if you take this pathway, you'll find a menu of training options across the top there. Right there they are, all 4 of them. As you can see here, teachers register in the area. Whoops, let me back up. They register down there, see in the area, they register by their state. Does anybody know why? Yeah, let me repeat that for the folks listening in on the recording. Pathways to teaching vary by state, and so do the certification test requirements. Yes, for that reason we conducted this workshop that I just skipped to called Pathways to Teaching. There are 3 main pathways to teaching in the United States, and these are all discussed in this workshop. It's slightly different in each state, but basically it comes down to 3. In fact, during the workshop, we recommend that every teacher candidate works directly with their school district professionals. You don't take advice from us, you don't take advice from the college. Once you're out there looking for a job and you're working in the district, you go to the school district professional, usually in human resources or a recruitment officer. They are the professionals, they know the state regulations, and they know the changes too. Alright, so that's pathways to teaching. Back to the training options. Let's take a closer look at each one, starting with workshops. Workshops are conducted live, both in person, kind of like what we're doing here today, and online as webinars. However, since not everyone can attend a live workshop or webinar, each session is recorded, again like we're doing here today. And this is an example of a workshop area, in this case for elementary education. What's it say, social studies? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, this is not for Florida. If it were, the title would say FTCE in it. So this is an elementary education program. I think about 36, 38 states use this one. So teachers can listen in on the pre-recorded workshop on any electronic device anytime. You can watch it on your phone, tablet, whatever. And as you can see here, there's an activity guide that provides instructions about the activity. That helps the teachers have a better understanding of the test blueprint before they start. Alright, the next training option is called pre-test. These are exercises, generally 40 minutes, that are designed to help teachers determine their current knowledge about a certain subject area. That's all they do. They just test and say, well, where are you right now today? Alright, you can see, I don't know if you noticed this, but pre-tests are down there with the workshops. Had you noticed that? We go back to that workshop area? Right. Alright, here's an example of some pre-test subject areas. In this case, it's the elementary ed. Yes, so there's a separate pre-test for each subject area. Maybe you don't want to do all 4 of them, you just want to do 1 or 2. Right. So again, pre-tests provide an opportunity to assess current knowledge. A test report provides feedback in each competency area. Yes, so the report for mathematics, for example, what is this one? This is social studies. If it was math, I'm good at that one. That's numbers, algebra, geometry, measurement, data. Let's see if we can do social studies. It's going to be U.S. history, world history, geography, civics, economics. How about that? Got them all. So that's how you'll get your score back. The third option, training option, is quizzes and tests. This provides a more accurate assessment than just a pre-test, of course, and it helps the teachers determine which areas they might need to review or study, which competencies. Quizzes and tests provides 15-day admission to every subject area on the test. So, in this case, you push quizzes and tests, you push elementary education, and you get all 4 of these. So, in social studies, for example, there's a quiz based on each competency. See how that works? And the question we get quite often is, well, how many times can a teacher take a quiz? Or the students too can do this. But then we're talking about teachers now. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Why would somebody want to take a quiz more than 1 time? Or put another way, what is the purpose of using quizzes and tests as a strategy for test preparation? Well, hang on, we're going to talk about it in just a minute. You're going to talk about it in your groups. Is it a good strategy to run through practice questions? Is this a good test prep strategy? That's what a lot of people do. They run through practice questions. Remember, we're not talking about preparing for teacher-made tests here. These are quizzes and tests designed to prepare teachers for professional tests. Alright, so we're going to talk about this. According to those who have gone before you in this program and our testing experts here at the test camp, there are 2 main reasons, or really good reasons, for why you would use quizzes and tests. What are you thinking? Talk this over with your neighbors and we'll come back as a group in just a couple of minutes. Alright, again, for you folks listening in today, feel free to pause the video and discuss the purpose of quizzes and tests as a test preparation strategy, especially just running through practice test questions. We'll be back here when you return. Alright, let's go ahead and start with reason number 2. Let's see if you had this one. Self-evaluation. Did any group have this answer? What's meant by diagnostic? Yes, quizzes and tests can reveal which competencies you might need to review or study. And that's kind of how you learn the competencies, isn't it? All right, so a lot of groups had that one. How about this one? The number one reason, test skills practice. That's why you go through these quizzes and tests, so you can practice your test skills. Who had this? Only one group. Isn't that something? There's not a lot of emphasis put on skills. That's kind of what makes us different here. Practice questions like those on quizzes and tests can provide test skills practice and consequently improve performance on a test. An example of a test skill is identifying the competency being tested. In other words, you look at a question, you have to have the skill to know which competency is that. So for learning and teaching or professional ed, it's say assessment. You see a question, assessment. Planning, diversity, those are the competencies. Another skill is deciding how much time to invest in a question. Yes, another skill, right, eliminating answers and so on, right. So we promote test skills practice. But while you were discussing the purpose of practice questions, I asked this group down here to talk about how quizzes and tests might be misused or even harmful. Why is just running through questions, how could that be harmful? Well, we've also discussed this in previous orientations, so let's all take a couple of minutes now and discuss that. How are quizzes and tests misused, right? How can just going through practice questions as a test preparation strategy be either misleading or even harmful? All right, so talk this over with your neighbors and we'll see if you agree with our two main reasons that we came up with. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Alright, if you're listening in here today, feel free to pause the video and discuss the misuses of just using practice questions, running through practice questions over and over again. Does that really do you any good? And is that a good test strategy? Alright, we'll be back here when you return. Okay, we're back. Let's see if you match up with these. And speaking of matching, test matching. You know what we mean by this? What are we talking about here? Yes, we're trained to take tests in schools where practice questions match test questions, aren't we? If you do well on the practice questions, you're likely to do well in the test questions. That happens in schools. That's not on these professional tests. A couple reasons for this are the finite amount of content being tested, right? Usually on a test, you're just only going over this week's or this month's content. It's not nearly as much as a full summative test like these. And a teacher might regard a test as the last chance to teach content, right? They're trying to reward the students. You get that? The students are rewarded for performing well on a school test, and so are the teachers, right? The better the kids do, the better the teachers look. So it's no wonder that people are looking for questions that might be on a test. We hear this all the time. Well, I took my test and it didn't match up, and that leads us to the second main reason, or the misuse of tests, is false confidence. What are we talking about here? Go ahead and I'll repeat it for the folks listening in. Yes, what happens on these professional summative tests when it's discovered that all those practice questions that they work through for the last 3 or 4 weeks or longer don't match the test? Right? Anxiety. Some people call this test anxiety. How many times have you heard accounts of students, even teachers, who tell stories about, well, the study guide didn't match the test? Well, how in the world would it? Right? So this is why you use practice questions. Now this group made a list of the test prep strategies you used in your college, right? You used certain test preps, and your school district, all right? So you guys talked about this, how you tried to raise test scores for teachers and students in your district. So tell everybody what you tried, and I'll repeat it for the folks listening in on the recording. All right, let's start there. Study guides had practice questions. What else did you try? Webinars. And also they claimed that they were going to go through a whole bunch of practice questions. Imagine that. Did you have to pay for the webinars? Oh no. Yikes. Boy, you just never pay. Just no reason ever to pay to listen to somebody talk. we've had a lot of talking here today, but we certainly wouldn't charge you for it. Any other strategies y'all talked about? You have an after school and weekend tutoring sessions. It's kind of expensive, I would imagine. You hired the people, y'all paid for it at the district? Have you monitored that? What are the tutors doing? Running through practice questions. Okay, there you go. Okay, well, so anyway, back to the quizzes. We provide these online, and this is why we only allow the 3 attempts. 3 attempts are allowed on each quiz, and 3 attempts are allowed on each one of the tests. And again, why do the 3 attempts only? Back to the purpose. 3 attempts provides plenty of test skills practice and plenty of self-evaluation. Yes, go ahead. Yes, these exercises are different each time. They're randomized questions and answers. Big test pool and it pulls out, right? So, confidence is a result of test skills practice and self-evaluation. Being honest about knowing the competencies and about knowing the test. We do not want to provide a test platform that enables false confidence. That's why we just don't give out a whole bunch of practice questions without first trying to train them in the test skills strategy. Now the question someone was just asking was about the value of study guides, webinars, and tutors. Yeah, well, yes, they still have value. You folks paid for this down here. They have value. What's their value? They're teaching test content, right? They're not teaching test skills, they're teaching test content. And it takes both the knowledge, the content, and the skills. That's what increases confidence, and that's what increases test scores. All right. So that's the quizzes and test training option. The most popular program here at the test camp then is the courses. There's 30-day courses, 90-day courses like we talked about before, and these are called campsites. They include every subject that's on the test. Here's an example of a campsite home. This one happens to be for social studies. And when they go and get a course, they get the workshops, of course, they get the pre-test, they get the quizzes and tests, and then they get a whole set of test skills training activities. Yes, go ahead. Well, yes, before you go and get involved with this, you can experience a campsite. Go to the Teachers Welcome Center. Ooh, how do you get there? I think you just go to Teachers, and it says Learn More, right? All right, so as you can see here, when we're talking about test cert now, certification tests, it's important that every teacher registers in their area. And we've talked about this is because certification requirements vary from state to state. So, teachers who want a brief introduction to test cert, they can just go over and visit the test area. Little 5-minute orientation video so they make sure they're in the right place. And this is where they can find also some information about their counselor. If they want to compare test cert passes before registering, they can expect to find a look at a glance chart that helps them make their best choice. And then there's a pathway to register your group right here. That's what you folks will be doing down here. College and district administrators are choosing this option, and that's because it includes a dedicated registration page. So there's no mistakes. That's where they send all their teachers to register. They also get a grade book to track participation and progress. So we work with administrators to create a program that fits the needs of a college or a district. This is a college from, what, Tennessee? Right, and then here's a school district from Florida, Indian River School District. Yes, go ahead. Yes, the tests in Florida are different than the tests in most states, actually. In fact, let's go back to the Tennessee example again. All right, see the name of those tests down there at the bottom, those last 3? Everybody starts with core, then we do elementary ed as a subject area, and then learning and teaching. Let's go back now to Florida and see what they call those. In Florida, they call it general knowledge instead of core, elementary K-6, but they don't call it learning and teaching, they call it professional ed. Right. So as mentioned earlier, registration includes this campsite counselor, and that's a colleague, another teacher who's got a lot of experience with this, been working with us for years, and they can help you navigate through the site, help their fellow teachers navigate through the site. They put a brief personal profile on the site so that you get to know a little bit about who they are, and they invite you to leave a written message for them at the camp office, and they'll get right back to you to help you out. Well, that completes this orientation for the Test Camp Teachers Program, and that's all it was kind of an orientation to who we are and why we're doing this for teachers. I'll stay here until all the questions are answered, so thanks again to the administrators down here, and to those who plan the session. We look forward to working with you here at the Test Camp. Thanks, everyone. And for you folks listening to today, feel free to contact us at the camp office. You can find a pathway to the camp office at the top of the site. We look forward to working with you too. Thanks again. All right. Let's go ahead. I got to stop this video first.